One of the things I really love about World of Warcraft, and probably one of the reasons I keep coming back even after 20 plus years, is the fact that you can just make your own stories. Like, the world and lore is set up in such a way that it's just easy and fun to tell stories with other people and have like a Dungeons and Dragons roleplay like experience. And I'm in the process of setting up one of those campaigns now, so I thought I'd talk about the campaign that I'm making and the ideas that I'm going to put forth for my players and the kind of story we're going to tell, and just kind of show you what goes into it, because it truly is an entirely different game when you play it in this way. So here's the pitch. We're going to go from Ungoro Crater all the way to Desolace, and we're going to basically follow a Kodo migration pattern. We're going to be like the Tauren of the ancient lore, who were nomadic and they followed the Kodo all the way from the origin grounds of Ungoro all the way to the resting place in Desolace. Of course, along the way, we'll learn some lore and there'll be little events and things like that, but that's the main overarching premise, is we are going to live like the Tauren and we're going to experience what it's like to be a nomadic Tauren. We're going to have to live off the land. We're going to have to search. We're not going to use portals. We're not going to be teleporting around. We're not going to use magic. We're going to live like the ancient Tauren. Now, Ungoro looks very nice. It's very lush, very green, but it's a very dangerous place, right? It was the Titans' testing ground. You've got experiments, you've got giant dinosaurs, you've got huge pits of tar that are just boiling and hanging around there. So there's a lot of potential danger here. So I think the first area is going to be a little bit more like survival horror, avoiding the tar pits, avoiding vine traps, avoiding being stalked by the dinosaurs. Every piece of food can attract danger. Every step you take could be into soft ground that you start to sink into. Hot geysers could spray out and burn you. I think there's going to be a lot of survival elements here just to kind of get people in the mood. And we can talk about like how the Stegodons were potentially the first Kodo, and like the Kodos and Thunder Lizards that came all throughout the Barrens and everywhere else came from originally here, and that was like a part of the migration pattern. I think that'll be interesting. It's a fan theory. Like, there's no hard lore on it. There's some speculation and some people in the game who say that they think that those like Kodo who can breathe lightning originally came from here, and that's why they're special. We don't know for certain. So is it pushing the lore? Maybe a little bit, but nothing game breaking. And then eventually we'll find our way out of Ungoro. Once you go up to the bottom right-hand corner, there's like a little way to walk up and out. Because again, we're not going to be using flying mounts, so we don't have magic. We're not going to just zoom out of here. People are going to have to hoof it through all of this danger. And anyone who knows the World of Warcraft map, which of course the in-game characters most likely will know, that the danger won't end there. Once we're out of this lush, beautiful valley, we are stuck right into the Teneris Desert. And this is where the survival stuff is going to definitely peak. We're going to have characters, hopefully, who are experts in survival, who can help us to obtain water from cactuses or turning like Kodo hides into tents for shades. Lots of different ideas. I don't know exactly what party I'm bringing yet, but those characters should have some skills that will make this unique, and depending on what they offer, this experience will be a little bit different for the party. The main thing I want them to explore here is the giant skeletons. There's a lot of speculation about what they can be, and again, there's no hard and fast lore on it. Some people just say that they're giant cool skeletons because it's cool to have giant skeletons. Some people speculate that Teneris used to be underground, so it's like Loch Ness monsters. However, if you look at the front of the skeletons and some of the giant skeletons in the area, it does have the horn like the Kodos do, and there are ancient giant Kodos. So for our purposes, since this is a Kodo Walk and talking about the Kodos and the Tauren and the Kodo, I think we're going to make these giant Kodos, and we're going to have to collect a few of those bones. We're going to help these ancestral Kodos make it back home to their resting place, which is Desolace, where every Kodo is naturally drawn to at the end of their life to go to the Kodo graveyard. I think also because the area typically has a lot of goblins and ogres because of Gadgetsin, we'll probably run into a few different NPCs here, give the party some choices and options, maybe some shifty goblins who have some black market deals or want to join the party to smuggle some goods across the land, something like that, something to kind of give them a little bit like morality check, like, oh, do we take the evil offer for a little bit of benefits to make things easier? Do we go the high and mighty route and take no extras on to make sure that we can survive, but then that'll maybe cause some problems later? Something with goblins there for sure. Thousand Needle is a little bit tough because honestly I haven't spent a whole lot of time in this zone since it got flooded. I missed the old Thousand Needle. I spent a lot of time at the raceway before it became the speed barge, but there's plenty we can work with here. especially because you've only really got one route, because again, we're not going to be flying. You basically have to walk along this entire shelf, which you can see is overrun with scorpions and poisonous, dangerous creatures. So there's a lot we can do with like venom, anti-venoms, spider bites, scorpion stings, things like that for a little bit of added danger and survival. But I think what I really want to focus on is either A, giving people the option to go to the speed barge, maybe some optional side content, a little bit like beach party episode, right? You're going over there to party, you're going over there to play, have a little bit of fun, something like that. Could be a fun distraction. You always need a good beach episode in the middle of your anime, right? You always got to have one little distraction there. So something like that could definitely be good. And then we will do a little bit heavier as towards the end of Thousand Needles. Once you get to the different, what do you call them? The spires. There's going to be a bunch of the Grim Totem Tauren fighting the regular Tauren there. And there'll be a lot to talk about with the lore of like who the Grim Totem are, when they joined the Horde or why they didn't join the Horde, what they stand for, all that sort of thing. And then we've got the Twilight over here for our cultists as well. So there's a lot of options we have there. I don't know I'm going to do all of that, because having the Twilight cultists, having the Grim Totems, and having the beach party and all the venomous creatures all in one zone is a little bit too much. So maybe one or two of those. We might ignore the presence of the Twilight just to focus on the Tauren, since this is, again, Kodos and Tauren is kind of our main theme here. So I think we're going to focus more on the Grim Totem going through here. And again, give players options. Maybe they choose to side with the Grim Totems and help push out the other Tauren. Maybe they decide to help push the Grim Totem out and give this area back to the Freewind traders who originally owned it. The great part about any sort of Dungeons & Dragons style TTRPG storytelling roleplay is you get to make your own stories, right? So we've got the toys here, we've got the essence of a story, but we get to kind of shape and mold it how we want to. And then really interesting, getting out of Thousand Needles, you basically, if you're walking, because again, we're not flying, so if you're walking out of here, you have two real options to get up and out, and one of them takes you right through the Razorfin Crawl, Razorfin Down area with all the boars, the quill boars, and their giant thorns. And I think this is really a really awesome area to explore, because again, we're going to be talking about Tauren lore, and the Tauren and the centaurs and the quill boar are all very interconnected. So here you have like a high danger, you're in enemy territory, you've got all the great artwork in this area, you've got all the great thorns, you've got all the fetishes and totems that are tied up and all the skulls everywhere. So another chance for like a really horror themed area, survival. You're in enemy territory, you're locked down, you're surrounded by all sides, you can't see the sun because it's being choked out by the vines, and you're surrounded by these strange bones that are chiming. Like there's a lot of good atmosphere right here. So I think we're going to choose to go through this area, but I'll offer it as a choice for which area do we want to walk through to the party, give them options of how they want to go through and escape each area. Then we're going to go into the Southern Barrens. I'm very unfond of the Barrens. I've been leveling in Classic WoW lately, and I've been stuck in the Barrens for 30 levels, so I'm very much sick of the Barrens. But this is a great place for a lot of lore to talk about. You've got the Camp Taraho massacre, you've got the dwarves who invaded the area, you've got all the tensions between the Horde and Alliance. So again, we're talking about Kodos, we're talking about Tauren, so that is a great opportunity to talk about some of those raging war stories that they used to tell. World of Warcraft has kind of turned into World of Peacecraft according to some people, and they don't do the Horde versus Alliance stuff nearly as much as they should, now that we're kind of all one happy faction getting along. But the war is there, right? Those scars of war are still in the land and still affect people. In fact, you've got this giant scar coming up here that's going to be full of war machines. So there's going to be a lot to talk about, like the Tauren joining the Horde and why the Tauren joined the Horde. Again, talking about centaurs and quillboar, but also talking about their debts to the orcs and having the orcs build all this stuff in their traditional land and no longer becoming nomadic and settling in Thunder Bluff. So there's a lot of interesting lore to talk about here, and a lot of things that we can do to give those sparks of war and hatred, talk about how our characters have been impacted by war over the years. A lot of deep character building in this area. I feel like we'll have a lot of chance to explore backstories through that scar. And then, of course, up here near the camp, there's those old classic WoW quests for hunting some of the mighty Kodo in here. So talking about, again, how the Tauren and the Kodo are connected. And this is where the majority of the Kodos are, right? Like the Kodo allegedly started down at Unguro. Not many make it through Tanaris because Tanaris was a giant desert, but once they've reached the Barrens and Mulgore, like this is where they thrive, where there's plenty of lush land, plenty of eating. It's a dangerous area for sure. You've got like the hyenas, you've got the war, you've got all the druids messing with everything with all this lush greenness that popped out of nowhere in the Wailing Cavern story of old. So lots of lore to talk about there. And I think this will be mostly a character development area, talk about how we've been impacted by war and danger and all that. And then to kind of put a fine cap on it here, obviously we can't cross this giant chasm that's been destroyed by Deathwing, so that'll be a main talking point, of course, the sundering of the world. But the only way to get to Desolace now would be go through this one pinch point that's going to be coming up here in just a second, and there's going to be two options. You can literally take the high road, which is the Tauren orc established carved through the hills up and around, or there's an Alliance checkpoint. And since we just spent all this time talking about the Alliance and tension with the Alliance, seeing if the party wants to risk trying to go through the fort and seeing if they will let us pass, or taking the high road up and around and sneaking around the giant Alliance encampment, I think will give some characters some interesting choice. I don't know exactly how it's going to play out yet. Again, that's something I always love as a DM, is seeing what choices the party makes, seeing how they choose to undergo challenges, and usually they come up with completely bonkers solutions you don't see coming. So I think we'll probably end up walking along this high road up here, as again, it is the safer route and it is hidden from all of that. There's not a whole lot interesting up there, but we'll probably add a couple events up there to make it a little bit more interesting. Maybe an opportunity to spy on the Alliance down below and report that spy report to someone. Again, a decision of morality, like do we report on these Alliance in here and potentially compromise them, I guess is what I would say, put their lives in danger for the Horde, or do we just move on with our own business and not get involved? I think characters will have some interesting choices with something like that along the way. In Stone Talon Mountain, there's a lot of different things we can talk about. Again, there was a lot of war in the area, and the war was a major focus after the Cataclysm in the area. There's a giant spider area. There's the traditional wyvern growing nest areas around here. There's the destroyed camps. There's the whole orc storyline of destroying innocents and the druids and the civilians and all of that I believe is retconned. I don't know that that's canon any longer. There's a lot of options here, but what I think I'm actually going to focus on is a little piece of lore. There used to be a classic WoW quest where there was a Tauren who told you that there was something evil that lurked underneath the area, and actually hinted at like the earthen, the kobolds, and maybe some of the kobold, take candle, like the darkness lurking beneath in the caverns underneath. There was a few hints in the area of something very, very evil in this area hidden under the ground. So I think I'm going to use that as like a traditional piece of like Tauren lore of like there's ancient stories of this great evil in here, and have them do a little bit of investigating and figuring out what that ancient evil is, if it's still a threat, all those sort of things. Maybe use the giant spider area here. Like when you talk about horror, for most people, having spiders this large, spiders that can take entire trees over as giant webs, is probably going to be the closest thing to horror that most people will experience. So maybe playing with the spiders just a little bit to get a nice little taste of fear put into them, where we're wrapping up the campaign. There's only one more zone after this, so a little spike in danger maybe right there. I think I also will talk a little bit about the druids, because obviously you've got the druids who've been restoring the area and making the area inhabitable after it was destroyed by fire and volcanoes and all those things. And obviously Taurens and druids go very hand in hand, so having those little bits of lore will probably be useful and important, but not the main focus. I think we're going to focus on this ancient story of some great evil underneath the land. And then there's really only one zone left, which is Desolace, which is everyone's least favorite zone. Like I've literally never heard anyone be like, "Oh yeah, Desolace, I love that zone. It's my absolute favorite." But there are two main important points, I think, for Tauren that we can use for the end of this story. Well, three maybe. You've got the Kodo Graveyard, right? That is our main place to go to. The Ghost Walker tribe maintains the Kodo Graveyard and takes care of them. But you've also got all the centaur tribes out here, and obviously, again, the centaur and the tauren have a lot of history together. So I think opening those old wounds, talking about those hatreds and the destruction of the tauren and the centaur will be interesting there. And then finally talking about why the tauren are even here. There was rumblings of perhaps the Earth Mother living underneath the land here because you have Maradon and a lot of the elementals in this area. There's some interesting lore there, so I think I'm going to focus on that aspect of why the tauren came here and why them and the centaur are at war, why they hate each other so much. And then we'll finish by going to the Kodo graveyard, which I had a hard time finding, so I had to clip the video here and start over again once I actually figured out where the heck it was. And here's where our journey will end, and we will, of course, lay to rest the bones that we gathered along the way and talk about all the Kodo and the journey, what we learned, yada yada, friendship, all that. But I expect this will take probably a few months in-game to do this walk and have all these events. And I super appreciate Blizzard for giving us all the tools to make something like this happen, because it is going to be an incredible journey. If you're interested in joining me along it, leave a comment down below. We might be able to have you join the party. I don't know how many people are going to be coming along this trail. Usually we do about 10 to 15 people, but we'll see what happens. So that is going to be our Kodo walk. I just wanted to share what it looked like, what it was going to be, and I appreciate you watching the video, and have a blessed day.